Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Nerd Herd Comic Book Club, your number one stop for stellar reviews of volumes, arcs, or stories that us or yourselves choose. You can find us live every Wednesday on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch, and the replay on all podcast networks. Take a seat, get yourselves and your opinions ready, as it's time to join the herd. But first, please put your hands together for your hosts, Shane, Phil, and Scott, as they kick off this week's discussion.
Hello, and welcome to the Nerd Herd Comic Book Club. I can almost hear like the relief that our viewers are going, oh, thank God it's a Phil pick this week. They know it's going to be good, because I only pick good books. I am sitting pretty on top of the leaderboards, but sure, we'll get that in our time. Welcome to another episode. This week we have read, and we will be discussing Superman Red Son. It's from 2003, written by Mark Millar and art by Dave Johnson and Andrew Robinson. But there's another name, I think, in there. Killian Plunkett. I think he does some of the art in issue 2, right. I believe. Could be wrong. But yeah, that's what we've read and we'll be discussing this week. I am, of course, joined by my cohorts. I have Shane.
Oh, hoi hoi.
And I have some Russian guy. I can't pronounce that name. I think it's Scott.
Oh, hi guys, how you doing?
It's good to see, Scott, that you're out of those Alid boxes, you know, the Alec Likes Comics.
Oh god, yeah.
You're
so pleased to be out of that box.
Yeah. But folks, we are on the countdown to the end of season 2. There's only this is the 10th, 10 more weeks, including this one, that these guys have the chance to topple me off the top spot. But they haven't managed so far, so I thought I'll try and take myself off the top spot by picking another good book, and Superman Red Son. How's that sound?
Sounds like cheating.
It does.
Sounds really humble as well.
That's just me. But listen, the guys who watch live in the chat tonight, you could have your say on our leaderboard, because next week we have no clue what we're reading, because you guys will be deciding that at the end of the show. So stay tuned for that and get your picks ready, and we'll see what we will be reading next week. But we'll make a start with this. First of all, I'll say who's in the chat live. We have Highland G. He was the first one here, saying, hey, party people. And we have Martin from Sonic's Comics and Ethan All. And Kevin saying, Ethan, comrades. Or comrades. I can never pronounce that right. Comrades.
That's comrades.
Comrades. Oh, is it? Okay. So, yeah. Superman Red Son. It's, if you haven't read this or can't tell already, it's an Elseworld story. It's not DC continuity at all. Essentially, it is what if Superman didn't land in a little country town in the US of A, but instead it lands 12 hours earlier in the USSR occupied or owned Ukraine territory. And he obviously is used as part of the Soviet Union as a pawn, really, during the Cold War. That instills fear into the Americans and to kind of control the world. But of course, Superman wants to remain good. He's a good person, a good alien, kind of. And he helps the Americans. I'll say that. I'll do that. But yeah, and it's all about kind of him becoming president. Superman, was he called President Superman? And obviously Lex Luthor, his arch enemy, he becomes the president of USA. And it's all about how the world evolves with socialists and capitalists and all that kind of stuff. And a really good kind of political drama thriller with some very interesting consequences towards the end. And of course, we get like Russian version of Batman. I mean, if that doesn't sell this book, I don't know what will. I mean, just call the book Russian Batman, and I'm in. Batsky. Yeah. So yeah, that's a brief synopsis, but we'll delve into the book deeper, of course, and we will start with Scott. Do you want to give your first thoughts?
Yeah. This was cool. You know, it was as an Elseworld story. We haven't read many, have we, on here? And I don't particularly go out of my way to read them anyway. just because I struggle enough to follow the actual canon timeline of DC stuff. Never mind try and find and read what happens in other timelines. But it was really interesting. The one thing that I really found myself thinking about while I was reading this was, did the writer think about the whole nature nurture kind of argument in theory? He was a good-ish hero, but I don't think I want to call him a hero in this story. But he had the morals now and again, especially at the start of the story where he saved the people from the Daily Planet globe falling off the building, and saved them. So that was his, like, I need to help people. I don't care like who they are. I want to help people. But then the further he got, the older he got and stuff like that, it seemed to be more like, you'll do what I say, and he starts implanting all of these the brain controlling chip things on their heads and stuff. So yeah, it really did make me think, like, just all about nature nurture, and that was probably the biggest theme that I kept coming back to reading this.
I agree. Like I say, there's like the Superman we know is in there somewhere, but I suppose when the things occur and things happen that make him kind of lean more towards the communist takeover of the world, I suppose he goes with it. He thinks he's doing the right thing, though, doesn't he? He thinks he's doing what's right.
Leaders always do, don't they? Ultimate power corrupts ultimately, and if you're not held in check, he doesn't have his mum and dad, does he?
I like that. Held in check, because obviously chess is a pretty big theme as well, because essentially this is one big chess game, between him and Lex Luthor and Brainiac, of course, in the end. And Shane?
I obviously read this back in 2003 when it came out, when I bought my copy. And even back then, and like my memories of it, because I hadn't read it for years and years, but my memories of it still stuck to me as the best non-canon Superman story I've ever read. But now rereading it, my opinion has changed massively, because now I feel this is the best Superman story I've ever read. Canon or non-canon, this is just a fantastic Superman story. I absolutely love this book.
See, this is one of the reasons why I picked it, because I've tried to find for myself a Superman story that's up there with likes of Dark Knight Returns or Year One, like the Superman version of the Batman classics. And I thought Up in the Sky was going to do it. I thought that was the one, get you guys into it. We're all going to love it, Up in the Sky. But of course, it fell completely flat.
You ruined my week.
Yeah, well, I feel like I'm determined to find the best Superman story, and I think Shane's right. This could be it, not because I'm being biased, it's my pick, but there's just not that many good stories on par with those Batman stories, and I think this could potentially be one of them.
Absolutely. Because it's not just a punchy book, is it? There are some action scenes, but mostly it's a conversation. Mm-hmm. It's a conversation between two countries, basically, and how they... Oh, go on.
I'd like to ask a question about your experiences of reading Superman comics and how much you've read.
You want to know our experiences?
Yeah.
Or just Up in the Sky?
Is that it?
Wasn't the one we read for the Nerd Herd. It was
Sacrifice.
Sacrifice, yeah.
Yeah. So have you only
Superman
just
Batman.
read stuff for the Herd? Have you not,
some Justice League stuff, like, more kind of recent runs, like the New 52 run of Justice League, which he's in, of course. Yeah. But I've never really read Superman solo stories, I suppose. Right. So yeah, that's why I'm determined to find good ones. Cause,
a good one. Yeah.
I mean, it's Superman. He's the original. He's the original superhero in comic form. Like, there should be iconic stories.
I only ask because I just wonder. Like, well, from Shane's perspective, then, it'd be good to get an answer from him as well. But it's just like, why is this the best one? Because I've only read the ones I read for the Hood, and maybe this will give an indication of how I feel. But it's it's not blowing me away, but it's definitely a good one compared to the other Superman stories I read. but I'm just like, if you're talking about like the leaderboard score and you want it to be the top, I'm like, nah.
No. Well, being me and Shane could give it a 10, the guys in the chat could give it a 10, and if you bring it down, well, then we all know you're playing funny buggers.
0.5, yeah.
But to be fair, like I kind of see where you're coming from in that why would this blow anyone away? But then I think it's a case of maybe if had you read more Superman stuff, like if I had read more Superman stuff as well, this would blow me away more than it hasn't really blown me away either. It's a good story that I've really enjoyed.
Yeah.
But again, it's not that kind of story that I think's iconic, likes of Dark Knight Returns for me. It's not up that level just yet. Slightly better than Kingdom Come, mind, but sure, that's another argument for another day. But just I do see where you're coming from. That I could see how maybe with it being a conversation for 3 issues, and it all wraps up at the end of the 3rd issue.
I was
brilliant.
Really
yeah,
absolutely amazing way to finish the book. And to just completely change the whole dynamic of everything you've just read beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
Because if Lex Luthor knew what we know by the end of the book, how would this book have gone then? Like, it's just so clever to just leave you with this constant question that you're never going to get answered. And I absolutely... The writer, Mark Waid, come on. See, it's fantastic in the 2000s, wasn't he? So Mark Millar in the 2000s was his peak, and this is his peak Superman book.
See, I always read Goodreads reviews after the Nerd Herd, but today I actually read it today because I just want to get a taste of what people think of this book. And there's the writer called Patrick Rothfuss. Have you ever heard of him? I think he wrote The Name in the Wind. He's wrote a few fantasy novels, and he commented on this book. And I've never really thought about this before until he said it. The writing, the story is really tight, which makes sense in terms like there's no loose ends. It's a perfect kind of story. It kind of goes full circle. It gives you everything you need and then just comes around again. So it's just a really tight, clever story. And that makes sense, like his review. I quite like that.
Yeah, it is clever in the way that you can just, you can read this whole thing and then you find out the ending and then you go, wait a minute, like let's do it again. And then like you see, like Shane said, the whole perspective just switches. Because now you know this information. I don't know if we should spoil it. I'm assuming everyone's read it, but
it's a 20-year-old book.
Yeah, that's true.
Let me just catch up on some folks who have arrived in the chat before I lose my way. Dominic, the comic book report, is in, and hey, and he loves Red Sun. I think me and Shane do at least. We're not too sure yet in Scott, but we'll find out. And Highland G saying, the bias. Russia expanding is bad, but US trying to control everyone is just fine. That's just the way of the world, isn't it? He does say he thinks even in the US, the Kent's Clark would be a completely different person. And then Kevin and Martin are saying, try All-Star Superman and Peter Tomasi's run on Superman, which I own, so I will read at some point. Yeah,
All-Star Superman was so boring.
Oh, really?
I was so bored reading that book.
That's Grant Morrison, isn't it?
And the art is so ugly. It's like it didn't even have anything to keep me interested. I didn't feel bad for him at the end. I was just like, book done, bye.
It's a good thing we're not reviewing All-Star Superman today.
It'll be a very quick show.
I'll just never pick that because I'll get marked down.
Yeah, we need to have like a blacklist of books to never choose.
Yeah. Oh, yes. So what did we kind of think? We'll just kind of move on to the art briefly before we kind of show our pages and stuff. What did you think of the art? Because I hadn't realized there's in issue 2 of this, there's 2 different artists. And you do see the change in the art slightly.
It's very noticeable.
Do you think so?
Yeah.
But then when it switches back, I did notice it. Switching back to the original artist, I think. No?
I think maybe you're just a little bit more accepting than me.
Okay. So did you prefer the art from the start?
Yeah.
And not the middle portion?
Yeah, it went a bit, I don't know, it's hard to explain, like the original, I think maybe what they were doing where the time was traveling far, like you're going through the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, maybe it was to coexist with the 60s, it was to give you that 60s feel, because it felt like a 50s book when it started, You know, like the
Yeah.
art was very 50s, all the buildings were very 50s. So maybe the artist just took over to do a decade in the book, and I'm fine with that if that's the case. But if he took over just to do half of the book, it was just quite off-putting.
Yeah, I mean, again, 2003, you obviously read the issues when they came out. I don't know if there was time constraints trying to get that out or something. You know, in books in general, I think when you change the art, even if you think makes sense to the story, it's quite. No, I don't want to say it wasn't too jarring in this instance for me, but it can be quite off-putting that you just change the artist. Just wait the extra few weeks and let the first guy do it. You know.
It could also be edits. You know, it could be that these weren't initially in the story, and you know, the DC editor was like, we need this extra thing explained, so they went back, wrote it, and couldn't get the artist. So you don't know why they do things like this, because it wouldn't make sense to have a different artist when you've got one artist for the majority of the 3 issues.
See, it's funny because I think the art change was quite subtle. You obviously think it was more so. Scott, did you even notice?
I'll be honest. I've had quite the mentally taxing week, and I had to pretty much assign how I'm going to concentrate on this story, and it was just focus on the writing, and you know, I knew what I was looking at, I knew where I was and everything, so that kind of in like detail there of like artist changing didn't pick up at all, and sorry, I know I'm being honest, but the stuff I did pick up, the little things I did notice is that I found that some sections, especially like the eyes and certain like facial expressions, reminded me of Lock and Key. I got that vibe. I think it was mostly in issue 2. But yeah, so that kind of took me back. Big fan of Lock and Key. Love this stuff, and so that was quite nice of me to look at. Whenever it comes to any sort of what if or Elseworld story, I always enjoy seeing how costumes change. Oh, that's very apt. For anyone listening to the podcast, Shane just turned off his camera, took off his jumper as soon as I said costume change. He turned his camera back on. So it was really cool, you know, seeing this. But they were just really subtle changes, weren't they? You know, Superman just darker and the chest had changed. Batman just put a hat on.
He stitched some ears to it. Give him some credit.
Yeah, and then Wonder Woman, she was more like black and red, wasn't she? Her costume. But yeah, and then I also really like the vibrancy of the colours in terms of when powers were being used. So like, you know, the reds for the laser vision, the blues for the ice breath, and the greens when there was the fight between Superman and Bizarro. Really vibrant, but that is all you're going to get out of me art wise, because I just really had to focus on the writing this time. Sorry.
I'm wondering, Shane, does that make Scott's score null and void? I mean, we'll take it for the bit of crack, but should we really count it as part of the average?
We should probably double it. Whatever he says, we'll have to double it.
Oh yeah, we'll double it. Highland G's also offering books that we should read. The new Krypton books are his favourite Superman books. I've never heard of the Krypton books. I'll have to check that out. And he is agreeing that he hates art changes unless it's an annual or something, which is fair enough because they do tend to change for annuals. I notice more now that and read less Marvel DC, as generally indie books have one artist, and that is the case with Marvel. Like I say, if someone's behind, they just ship it off to somebody else because they have targets to meet. And so that's us. Tottenham Gaming was asking, say hi, though, Tottenham Gaming. It is the Fears pick this week, so get your thinking caps on. Before we go into our pages, is there anything else you want to comment on the art at all? I mean, you mentioned costume designs there. I mean, obviously, over the years, Superman changed from, like, he was obviously wearing the uniform, and then I can't remember the second issue what he was like, but towards the end, obviously, he had grey in his hair as well, didn't he? And he looked more accomplished, experienced superhero, even if his uniform was different. And I thought it was cool. But again, my favorite thing in this book, for more like a kind of a nod, was the Russian Batman, and I thought he looked fantastic. Like, again, just like more like a simpler, like combat pants kind of. He just looks so cool. Like, come on, you gotta agree with me.
He did.
Yeah,
He
you
did
look
very
good.
cool.
Yeah, good hat.
And he smiles a lot more than the American Batman, doesn't he? His smirky little snarky smile that he
But
does.
it
It was
was more
sinister.
sinister. Yeah, like really sinister.
Yeah.
Like he's not smiling for fun. He's like, I'm gonna enjoy this. But moving on to that, then I will show one of I picked 2 pages. It's my pick, and I'll pick as many as I want. I picked 2, and the first one I did pick, if I could find it, because I'm terrible with this, is of course when you
Batsky.
see Batsky kind of swooping down off, I can't remember what building it was or where it was, but obviously from the Superman sign, the Russian version of the Superman sign. And he just looks so cool. Like even his cape's kind of beaten and tattered, and he's got holes in it, and he has the kind of combat pants, and he's got his little, what are they called? What's those hats called? There's got a name for them. Someone else know in the chat.
Yes.
Hat.
I know what you mean.
Yeah.
I have one, and I can't even think of what it's called.
Yeah, but I just think, even though I can't really say it's my favorite page. I just, when you see him in that kind of action pose, bullets raining down on him, I thought it was fantastic. So
I
good.
really like the process in the top 4 panels there. Him like grabbing the grappling hook, throwing it going around the sign, and then his grin. Like, was that like a yes, I've done it? Like, I didn't quite understand the grin panel there.
See, I think that is more like, haha, come
Yeah.
get me type of thing. Like he knows he's good at this. This is what he's good at. You're not getting me, because at this point I think he'd escaped the Russian forces. They give a number, but many times they tried to get hold of him, but they couldn't. And even at this point, they thought they had him, but he was able to fool them. So he must have been a bit cocky, a bit arrogant, that he could get away from it easily this time round. But sticking with the Batman theme, I suppose, I'll go into my second page, which again is another Batman page, but it's this time, I know, where he's in like the Russian version of the Batcave, and I just thought the kind of like just the big shadow, the kind of purple, the bats, the kind of perspective, like the camera angle you're sitting at. I just thought it just looked such a cool page. And one of the things Scott mentioned about Lock and Key, and if you look at the face of the Petar, or whatever his name was,
Yeah,
the face there is quite reminiscent, is that the right word, of the Lock and Key faces, And I just thought this image was so cool. And you've got the coin in the background, you've got all the little kind of bowling pins or whatever else, and I just thought this was outstanding. But he also has the American flag, but obviously he's Russian, but he has the American flag. I don't know if that meant he just is anti-Russian everything or what. But yeah, I just thought it was so cool.
But now it makes me want to know who these bad guys are that he got all these trophies from.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. And there should be a solo series, spin-off series of this.
Batsky.
And it would sell, because I think everyone
Oh, yeah.
really enjoyed his role in this book. But yeah, that was my page. I just thought incredible.
Would that one be called Dark Sun?
Oh,
I'd like that.
Oh, nice. If Mark Millar's listening,
Yeah,
we coin this
I'm sure
here
he is.
on the Nerd Herd Comic Book Club. We're coining that, so we deserve some sort of credit. Just stick our logo in your next book or something. We're okay with that. Who do I pick on
Put
next?
it in the Batcave. Just...
Oh, on the wall or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Instead of the bat symbol on his chest, just the Nerd Herd. Like that's
yeah,
it.
just have the Nerd Herd as his screensaver on the back computer.
Yeah.
Not even just me. Just leave you two out, because we want to get the people coming into us more.
No,
so you
that's
have
true,
me
yeah,
and me
yeah.
on, that's
Fair
it.
enough. I totally agree.
My ego's not big at all, so it's not.
No.
Shane, we will go with you, because of course you've picked, just like I picked Batman, you've obviously picked.
I've obviously picked Wonder Woman, but probably not for the reason you think. I mean, obviously she looks great, she's drawn amazing, but I picked this page because they've just saved all these, sailors on a massive tankard, and they've just done a really good thing. But look how bored Wonder Woman looks. Like, this is just something she's just doing. Like, she doesn't want to do it, she's not enjoying it, it's just something she does. She doesn't have the life that she has, like, outside of Red Sun in the DC continuity. Their friendship isn't the same in this book. It's very one-sided. and you can see it on her face. She knows, but she just won't admit it. And it's kind of sad, but it's also very beautiful, them flying in the middle.
I hadn't really thought about that kind of bottom panel where she does look quite sad. I'm sure I noticed at the time. I'd never really thought about that was the reason.
Yeah, I didn't clock it.
Yeah. Because obviously she's even sitting there like, oh, the people love you, Superman. It's almost like sarcastic, isn't it? Like she's like, of course they love you.
Yeah.
You know, there's no choice but to love you. Like, I'm here because of that. And yeah, it is quite. It's quite a telly message, I suppose. And yeah, but she does look really cool, like the black and red version of Wonder Woman. And but yeah, I thought it was really sad, like her kind of part towards the end, the fact that Superman begged her to destroy her truth lasso.
Yes, the lasso of truth. The unbreakable lasso of truth.
But she obviously went all grey. Like, is this a thing? Is this the Elseworld story talking here, where in terms of like she went grey and weak almost?
You can't destroy the truth. You can only move it. So it moved the truth into her. So she had to show her age rather than, you know, the lasso is the lasso of truth, and you cannot. You can bend the truth, but you can't break the truth. And so when she breaks it, it has to go somewhere. So it went in her.
Oh, she still looked glamorous with grey hair. I'm not being.
Oh yeah,
you know,
still would.
Oh yeah, of course. And Scott, we will move on to your page. Very cool. Go for it.
So this is like really towards the end of the whole story in issue 3, and this is kind of like the first page where you see Superman. He's had this kind of turning point that he, you know, needs to not be who he has been this whole time, and he swoops up, kills Brainiac insanely quick, and I just love the pose and the kind of green glow around him, behind him, and it just looks like you know his fists are clenched, and he's just had enough, and he's just wants to fix stuff now. And I thought it was such a cool page, and you know I love the speed you can see on the first 2 panels there as well. Just the gone,
yeah.
You know, and he's destroying Brainiac. And this was the closest to the Flash that I'm ever going to get in this story. So you know, Phil got
Barry
Batman.
Allen was mentioned.
Yeah, they mentioned. Yeah, see, Scott wasn't paying attention. They mentioned Barry Allen. Iris was there.
Yeah, I remember Iris.
But yeah, I mean, holding like Brainiac's like innards, you know, mechanical innards.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's really cool page. And again, the green glow is awesome.
Yeah,
very cool.
And I'm glad in that third panel as well, you don't really see much of Superman destroying him. All it focuses on is the hand ripping the head off the body, and I'm glad that that's the focus. And then you have, you know, the bigger part then of Superman just standing there.
Yeah,
it's great.
And like I say, this costume design again was different, I think, from issue 2 and obviously from issue 1. I just think it looks really cool as well. He looks Russian, you know.
Well, he shouldn't. He should look Kryptonian.
But is he Kryptonian? Because you know, the way.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, not. Oh my god.
Spoilers.
Well, we're going to spoil it because the ending of this story, I think, I don't want to say it saves it for me, but there is a chunk in the middle where it's just you're just reading stuff they're telling you. You know, they're telling you stuff, but it all kind of makes sense more at the end with that ending. Pretty much the whole of issue 3, to be brutally honest. Issue 2 was not. It just it was missing something from issue 2, and issue 3 brought it right back around, and it was tremendous. But yeah, we'll catch up on some of the chat here before I lose. Kevin Wells and he like the Homie's Detective Comics 27. What was that?
That was your Batsky picture of him swinging down.
Of course.
So yeah. He was swinging down like Batman's first appearance.
Oh, that's true. I didn't even think of that. And that makes it better now. Thanks very much. Extra point on my score. If it's even possible.
A whole point for that.
Yeah. And Highland G is confirming it is a, how do you pronounce this? Ushanka?
Ushanka.
Is a Russian hat. Cool.
Thank you very much. Because that was going to nag me.
Yeah. It's going to shank you. Wait, anyway. I know. So, anything else you want to touch on with the art at all? Well, move on. Okay, cool. All right. So we'll go with Shane because we'll get more positivity. I think it was Shane.
Whoa, no, I don't think I'm being negative.
No, you're not. But I just want over positivity because it's my
Right.
pick. I want
Okay.
somebody to kind of like milk my ego a little bit more, and I think Shane might do that.
I think this was written amazingly well, character-wise. Lex Luthor's character is such a dramatic version of himself, I'll say. He's still very much the Lex Luthor you know, obsessed with beating Superman, obsessed with being the smartest man in the room. But he takes it to a next level in this when he tells Lois, like, our marriage is over. I need to focus on Superman. It was nice. Thank you very much. Good day. Like it was like
Once a year, though, they meet up for dinner.
Yeah, but then again, he's not there. He's still not there, is he? Like his brain is still just constantly working. He's like a 9th level intelligence, according to Brainiac. So he's always working. And I thought it was fantastic. I mean, the way he beat Superman with one sentence, and it was just the most beautiful scene of a comic book that I've read in ages. It was fantastic. When he flies down to Lois and he's like, she's like, Lex said that this could stop you. Read what's on this letter. And he uses his X-ray vision and he just breaks down. And she's like, my God, what is in this letter? And she opens it and it just says, why not put the whole world in a bottle, Superman? And it's just like, that's when it finally hits him that he is the bad guy. And it's just, oh my God, just like, you just get goosebumps when you read that. I absolutely loved it. And Superman's character, sorry, go on.
Do you ever see that meme where it's like, it's a British comedian duo and they're wearing Nazi uniforms and they look at one another going, are we the bad guys?
The bad guys?
Was that Mitchell and Webb?
That's the one, yeah. It just kind of reminded me of that. Like, he realized I'm the bad guy because obviously his biggest failure up to that point was the fact that he couldn't. What city was it? So I forget.
America, wasn't it?
No, they put a Russian city in the bottle.
Oh,
yes.
And that was his biggest failure. He couldn't work out a way to bring them back to normal size. And obviously, that one message put the whole world in the bottle. Think, well, I'm the bad guy. And I thought, you're right. That was wonderful. That was a great turn.
Absolutely. Because his character throughout, he wants to do good. Like he always does. That's fine. I get that. But he just leans straight into totalitarianism, doesn't he? He's like, it's my way or I'm going to implant your brain. Wrong think will not be allowed in any part of the world that I control. I won't take over the world, but I will allow you to join my part of the world because look how well my part of the world is running. It's like, well, yeah, but they might be fed and they might have jobs, and it all sounds great, but then you get to the part where it says everyone sleeps for exactly 8 hours a night, and it's like, hold up, so you're policing people's thoughts, you're policing people's their sleep. It's like, this isn't a world that a good guy would have.
Yeah.
And it's because he grew up in a communist country. And that's what he thinks rulership is. It's you do as I say, and I will give you something to placate you.
Yeah.
And that's why they hate America so much, because America is you work hard and you get these things for yourself, whereas they get handed them, but they're only handed a little bit. So when America almost falls, and then Lex becomes president, and within 6 months he's made America the greatest country on the planet again. And Superman is just so annoyed, and it flowed so well. Like his character, he had the character chart. He went up, he went down, he went up. And that's what you want in a book, and that's what you got from books in 2000s.
I written down this line, kind of touching on what you were saying there about with Superman and Russia, it was like something like there's only 2 capitalist countries left in the world. That was the US part of the US of A, because obviously some went independent, and then there was Chile, and everywhere else was communist. And he talked about how it's like, this is the utopia. There's no crime. They sleep 8 hours a day. No one goes hungry. They all have a job. They all have a hobby. And it sounds like that's really good. But the one line I thought was excellent. It's like, I offered them utopia, but they fought for the right to live in hell. Like, I thought that was great. Like, yes, this is excellent what you're doing in terms of like, sleep, blah, 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 blah. But that's you controlling us. We want to make these decisions for ourselves. And that's what America was doing, and America was essentially destroying itself for years. Their economy was so poor. But you're right, within 6 months, I think they said the best economy America ever had since 1776. And he won the next presidential election with 101% of the vote.
Yeah.
I think he then made it that the average lifespan was 800 years.
Yeah, 800 years old. Like, fantastic. He had a pill where you didn't have to sleep ever again. Yeah, he cured cancer. Everything. Fantastic.
But what was interesting, when he first started doing all of this, it was all to spite Superman. He didn't actually care about any of the people.
Mm-hmm.
It was just, he was making America great again. Purely to spite Superman. He didn't actually give a shit. But then at the end,
it worked out great for the American people, didn't it?
Or did it? They obviously lived for 800 years, but sure, we know what happens at the end of this story. But I did really like the in terms of Lex Luthor, like going back to his character kind of trait. So Lois Lane visited him for one of their anniversaries, and she bought him a gift. And he was like, "Well, just put it on my table or whatever." She says, "Don't worry, I'll make sure my assistant opens it." Like, just like, "Don't worry, it will be opened. My assistant will open it for me." Like, he has no part to play in this whatsoever. He's not interested. But I did find that quite weird as well, that Lois Lane is just willing to hang in there, considering this kind of like sexual tension she had for that one face-to-face meeting with Superman.
Well, I mean, it was one split second, and I mean, hardly worth ruining your marriage for, is it? But then, obviously, when he ends it, I don't know why she stayed with him for decades after that.
Well, she became a first lady, so maybe she was just as smart and seen this coming.
She's playing the long game as well.
Yeah. But yeah, I thought that was really cool. Liam, the Funky Gibbons, is in the house. Heidi ho. Apologies, you're late. That's okay. Don't need to apologise. Scott, do you have anything to add to what?
I really enjoyed that each issue was kind of a little window in time. It wasn't a full, it wasn't a continuous story, if you know what I mean. It just had Superman before he was leader, and then I don't know if it was made clear, but it was just a bunch of years. I know we were told, he landed in 1938, and in the last issue, I can't remember, it was it 1938? Anyway, we were in the 60s, 70s, or 80s after that. But it was really cool to see it all just jump and how things had slightly changed in each issue. And I think the biggest change that I enjoyed was when you had all of those, when Superman was really controlling stuff, and you had all the green bits coming off the buildings. Do you know what I'm talking about? It was in the last issue, and it was just when he was talking about everyone getting their 8 hours and all this kind of stuff, it was showing what the city looked like.
Mm-hmm.
These little green little tags coming off the buildings, and it looked really futuristic, but it's 40 years, 20 years or more less than when it was written, so it was more futuristic than it is now.
To be fair, I thought those green bits were weird, and in that I didn't really understand it because it wasn't Green Lantern related, but it must have been Brainiac technology or something that was fueling those kind of. I think. I quite like the kind of touching what you're saying in terms of going through the kind of the timeline. You had some sort of obviously infamous characters in terms of names and real life history. Obviously, Stalin, and they had JFK wasn't assassinated. It was President Nixon was assassinated. JFK was the president who obviously brought him to the Area 51, which then became that was the Green Lantern crash site.
Yeah,
and when you have these kind of names that throughout the book, it tells a story in its own way too. In terms of obviously you can we can write it's an Elseworld story. We can write it that Nixon was assassinated and JFK survived and whatever else, and you have that kind of what's the word? It's a nod to it. It's you obviously in the 60s and 70s here because I've mentioned JFK, but he's not dead. But they've nodded to him because it's real life, and I quite like that kind of idea. But you do include that into it. I think there was other names, but I'm not too. I didn't do too well with my GCSE history, but I think there are there are other kind of references for other historical points and time.
I will say my absolute favorite moment of this entire story was the Batman versus Superman fight. It was awesome. I thought it was really clever how he kind of like used Wonder Woman to, as bait, to get Superman over, and then the Red Sun, which didn't really make sense because I was like, where's the kryptonite, and then I was like, why is it a red sun and all this, and then am I missing something?
You don't know Superman on Krypton they have a red sun and we have a yellow sun. That's why he has powers. So if you put Superman under a red sun, he becomes human. So he just loses his powers.
Because I thought that was just for this story, the red sun thing. So thank you very much for that. But anyway, it was so cool. I did really enjoy that, and just Batman seems to be clever in every universe by the looks of it. But it was a really cool fight scene.
The Batman origin story was great. Like, obviously, his parents were still gunned down, but gunned down by the would-be successor to Stalin. Like, Stalin's illegitimate son killed him, all because they handed out some flyers, against the Russian regime and stuff. And so, obviously, he's completely dead set against that, and that's his kind of motivation. And I thought that was so cool. Like, it just felt really good to have that origin. Yeah, I mean, like that we need that Dark Sun book, because I just want to read more of that. So even that you mentioned it, I just want to read more of it. Yeah, it is.
Let's just write it ourselves, fan fiction or something. I don't know. Let's just do it ourselves. We'll make our own Nerd Herd publishing company. We'll just do it. It's fine.
I didn't know this when I first read this book, but it's something I read after, and then I remembered obviously reading this time. Again, not being too au fait with Superman books, maybe Shane would know this, but Peter Ross is Clark Kent's best friend
from Smallville.
Yeah. So this guy who was Stalin's son, Peter Rosloff.
Yeah.
So Peter Ross. So that's like the version of him, and you had everyone.
Lana Lang.
Yeah, Lana was there. You had nods to other characters within the Superman kind of universe, whatever, and even the likes of, you obviously had Wonder Woman, Batman, you had Lois Lane, Barry Allen was mentioned, Iris was mentioned, Oliver Queen was there. He was a reporter, wasn't he? Jimmy Olsen, of course, was in the CIA, who then became the vice president. And even at the start, I think issue 1, they interviewed Clark Kent's mother, who talked about her, Jonathan. Thank God Jonathan's not here to see all this. That was obviously the American version of Clark Kent's mum. What was her name? Martha. Mm-hmm. Why do you say that name? So yeah, I just thought those kind of nods and stuff were just so cool. Like, just having them in there.
Can I ask, why is that so cool? Why is you write the 3-issue what if story, and you just use the same people, but you just make them look a bit different. And this is my gripe with all what if Elseworld stories. I just can't why isn't it more original? And you just I don't know.
It's if you watch the Marvel movies and the Marvel TV shows, and you see this little Easter egg that isn't so much relevant to the overall story, but they include it. And it's like, oh yes, I know this part. I get this reference. It's just that.
Okay. All right.
I think.
And it's also it's the writer as well showing you that they know the source material. They care about the source material, and they want you to know that they respect the source material. This isn't a book written in 2022. This was 2003. He loved Superman at the time.
If it's an Elseworld story, what's the point in referencing the source material? Like, it's a what if story. It's this is a totally different thing. I've just never got on with it.
Why does his suit have a diamond on the chest? That would make no sense, because if he landed in his ship, he would have his S symbol, because that's the House of El. So changing that to a hammer and sickle, it's just the what if stories are good because you always have a question about a character that you like. What if Batman's parents were never shot? If Bruce Wayne's parents were never shot, what if Superman landed somewhere else? You have these questions, and then someone comes along and writes a story to answer them for you, and you really appreciate it. I mean, I do. I appreciate And I
think
like
it's
the
one of-
freedom of an Elseworld story because you're not tied to any continuity. So you can do what you want. If you want Superman to fight Batman until Batman blows up, you can have Superman fight Batman until Batman blows up.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wonder if it's one of those times where, say, they didn't include Martha, they didn't mention Jonathan, say, Jimmy Olsen wasn't involved in any capacity, would there be more questions like, why did he not reference them? Why did he not bring them in some sort of form? Like they don't have they're not pivotal kind of characters in the story. Well, I suppose Jimmy Olsen was, but he was obviously aligned with Lex Luthor. But like, if you don't include them, it might raise more questions.
No, I think especially like with Pete. I mean, very few people remember Pete Ross, so having that is just a really deep cut. That's a sign of respect for the source material. That one there, because that could have been anyone. There was no need to put that in. So I think it's just the writer wants you to know that he knows what he's doing.
Yeah. Kind of moving on to a bit of a political discussion, but not too mad. So when I was reading this, I was trying to wonder: is Mark Millar, is he trying to kind of instill messages in this? I couldn't work out, is he a socialist or a capitalist? Because essentially what happened is that capitalist America won the day, I suppose, in the end. They lived for 800 years, but then obviously they destroyed itself. So is he trying to say what one
thousands
version?
of years in the future?
Yeah, but is he trying to say like one kind of version is better than the other, or do you know what I'm trying to say? Like,
he's definitely saying communism bad. I mean, that's not hard to point out. I mean, that's pretty obvious. Communism bad. You should be able to think for yourself without being turned into a Superman robot.
This is true.
The second you can't think for yourself, that's it. Society is done. If you're not allowed to have your opinions, done. So that's why the Superman turned them into robots, and that's what you are. The second you don't have your own opinions and your own thoughts, you're just a drone. You're just doing you're just going with the flow. So, but I think he might lean a little bit more socialist than capitalist.
This is what I was thinking.
As he's getting paid to do a job.
Yeah. at these kind of with the drones, like I said, the kind of mind control and kind of like you can't be thinking a certain. But even Brainiac, to be fair, Superman thought he was under his control for so long. Of course, it transpires that Brainiac essentially was the big bad, really, in the overall story, which was great. But yeah, I just kind of thought, like, where does Mark Millar sit in this? And again, it's a book that I think if it came out today in 2022, it would be quite controversial, I think, given the current.
Well, only on one side of the political spectrum. The other side would enjoy it for what it is.
Just catch up some comments. Sorry, folks, I've lost my way completely. Peter from Triple G Comics is in. He's in just in time for the Herd's choice for next week. Get your thinking caps on.
And final thoughts and scores. So get your scores in, Pete.
And Connie is in. I'm late. I was out. What? Nerds are never out. Yeah. And this week, Metropolis could be James, could be Matt. Just saying, I love the whole what if scenarios. And this is another point I want to make before you go into our final thoughts and scores. Like, I've watched the Marvel What If animated series and I really enjoyed it, really loved it. But I think this as a what if or an Elseworld almost like has more of an imprint on somebody. Like, I'll remember this. Like, I forget the Marvel What If series, to be brutally honest, but I'll remember this for.
To be fair, when I tell one of the guys I work with what we're reading next week and stuff like that, and I tell him, we're reading Superman Red Sun, straight away he just went, that's a good one. So yeah, it kind of I think I know what you mean there. So I won't forget this. It's definitely an impactful thing because considering how good Superman is, and then how not good he is in this, it's a really good way to flip the character on its head, and I think it will stick with you if if you are interested in this kind of stuff. And yeah, I'll remember it definitely.
Awesome. I mean, I haven't forgot it in 20 years, and I'm old, and my memory goes. I walk in the kitchen and forget what I went in there for.
Just towards the end, Hank Deasy has arrived in the chat. And hi, how are you? But we're coming to the end of this show now. I think, is there any other final points that you guys want to get in before we go on to our scores?
I do have one thing I really want to point out that I really, really enjoyed when Lex, for the final confrontation, and Lex appears and Brainiac like shoots him into the computer, and he's like, "Sorry, I couldn't let him talk to you. My calculations would show that it would take him 14 minutes to convince you to commit suicide."
Bear in mind, he is a level 12 intelligence.
Lex Luthor's only a level 9 according to Brainiac.
Yeah.
Brainiac's a level 12, but apparently he could talk Superman into that. I thought that was brilliant.
What level intelligence is Superman then? This is all I wanted to know. I was like, right, if he's level 12, he's level 9. What is Superman?
What am I?
Superman's probably a 3 or a 4. It's Batman, Lex Luthor, and Mr. Terrific. They're the top 3 brains in the DCU.
Yeah.
Are we the top 3 brains on YouTube? Like, where are we ranking this?
We're not even the top 3 on the Nerd Herd.
Mate, yeah.
But there are 3. Yeah. We've got another last-minute arrival. Helen is here.
Mama.
Spelt like a Kryptonian name.
Yeah.
I bet that wasn't even intentional. Good job. We'll move on to our final thoughts and scores, folks, in the chat. If you've read along this week and you have a score for us, it's above 9. Put it in the chat and we'll count. Who will we start with? We will start with Scott, I suppose. Scott.
You suppose. All right. Really cool story. Like I just said, it's really cool to see how they've kind of flipped this on this head. Superman being really good, and then him just kind of wanting to have total control of the world without really killing anyone, or just waiting for them to come along. I really enjoyed all the different character designs and how that, and it's interesting just by changing one thing in a story and seeing how all these other things change. That is something I do find interesting in a what if story. But then the other side of it was, I always want it to be a bit more original, because it's just changing all this one thing, and then just changing lots of little things about everything else we already know. I don't know. Maybe I'm just having a bad week. I don't know. But anyway, really fun story. I'm just going to stop talking, and I'm just going to say my score, because I'm just going to end up waffling. I'm going to give it an 8. Memorable story, pretty cool, and Batman's hat was nice.
Nice. That's all we need. A good hat on Batman's head. Put an 8 out of 10.
8 out of 10.
Shane, thoughts, scores?
I love this. Reading it 20 years ago, I thought it was a great story. I enjoyed it. Reading it this week in 2022, I realised how scary this book actually is when it's mirroring certain things, that go on in real world. Back 20 years ago, I weren't thinking about that. I was just reading the comic and enjoying it. I've thought about this book for 20 years, like on and off. Do you know what I mean? I look at it when I'm going through my comic boxes. I look at my figures that I've got. I've got my Wonder Woman figure from the Red Sun. So I'm pretty sure I'm going to think about it for the next 20 years, and I'm going to read it, a few more times. It's fantastic. And the fact that it is a complete circle, you get to that last page, and that last page leads to the first page of the book. It's genius. It's absolutely phenomenal. If you haven't read it, you should read it if you're a Superman fan. If you're not a Superman fan, I think you would like this as well, because this is a different take on Superman. If you don't like him because he's a Boy Scout, too goody-goody, then I think you would like this. This is a must-read for any comic fan. This has to be in the top 100 of comic books to read, like the bucket list of comic books. It has to be. But for me, I know it's not perfect. There are a few little flaws, but it's very nitpicky. I'm going to give this a 9.5.
Ooh, nice. That makes me very happy.
I tend to score the books you pick higher than you do, Phil.
Have you done the same thing this week? We shall find out. Folks, we have 2 scores in, one from Dominic, one from Kevin. So this is your last chance before I finish my spiel to get your scores in. Also, use this time wisely to get your choices in for the Herd's Choice. And Scott's going to collect them up and do a little spinny wheel thing at the end of this. Okay. I don't have too much different to say. These have both kind of covered it. I love a good what if story, but the difference from this to kind of other ones that I've read or watched on the television is that this will stick, as Shane mentioned, for a long time, and it has done. I remember I read it maybe 3 or 4 years ago. Really enjoyed it. This time around, I've taken more out of it. I think I've enjoyed it a lot more this time. And again, it's something I'll probably read every couple of years to kind of refresh myself. But there is a portion in the middle of the story where you kind of just have to, I don't want to say like a slog, but you have to kind of get through it because it all kind of makes sense towards the end. And I just thought it brings it right round, full circle. And that ending, like Shane mentioned the word genius. I thought he was talking about me for a second, but I just think it's tremendous. I love the story, loved the kind of twist, I suppose, because I don't think they mention Kryptonian at all in this book. They refer to him as the alien because they think he's an alien, but obviously he's an Earthling from thousands of years in the future with this advanced power and stuff, whatever else. And obviously the red sun is obviously what kind of I don't know how that works out. So there are a few questions still unanswered, but overall I really loved it, really enjoyed it. Looking forward to reading it again. Looking forward to getting into the top 10 this week because Scott's going to have to do a little image for our top 10, no doubt. So I am going with a 9, which is, as Shane mentioned, less than him, because I do think it's one of those stories that it's tremendous, but there are a few flaws that kind of irk me slightly, but not in the same way as Kingdom Come. So that's a 9 out of 10 from me. So let's go through some scores. Like I say, Dominic from, where is it? The Comic Book Report. He has gave it an 8. His reason, I've got some obligations that make me, he's leaving the broadcast. I just give a score. There we go. He just gave us the score and then left. Okay. Kevin had said he hasn't read it in 10 years, but the end had stuck with him, and he's given a 7.5. Martin from Sonic's Comics has said, I had a high expectations going into this and wasn't let down at all. Loved the story and the art from start to finish. Easy 9 from him. Liam, he enjoyed the story, although not as much as he thought he would. He gave it a 7. And I think that is it from the scores.
Great.
So I just check I have them. So I've got the 8, the 7.5, the 9, and the 7. It's just the 4 scores, am I right?
Mm-hmm.
Just the 4 scores. So that gives you guys in the chat the average of 7.9.
Yeah.
All right. Which then with my 9, Scott's 8, and Shane's 9.5 give us an average of 8.6. Does that sound right, guys?
Perfect.
So, where does it fall in the top 10? It's definitely in the top 10.
It's been a while.
But I just realised, is it going to push one of my books out? No, it pushes Scott's. Yes.
Oh,
8.6, which is joint. Is that joint fourth? What do they call that? Fourth. Yeah. With Batman Adventures Mad Love. I think that's good. You know, that I have 3 books in the top 5. That's all I care about, really, to be honest. But just, even though it's in the top 10, here's the rest of the leaderboard. If you're interested, that's the rest of that. And yeah, that's Superman Red Sun. Excellent book. So now we need to find out what we're reading next week because we have no clue whatsoever. And we have a few choices in. Yeah, we have 2. Is there more? 3. We have 3 choices.
So we've got... Oh yes, Kev. So
yeah, next one. We have. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say what you were going to say.
Yeah, no, you do it because I've lost the fourth one.
So we've got Tottenham Gaming. He says All-Star Batman, my own worst enemy. Then we've got Connie saying The Batman Who Laughs by Scott Snyder, just because she wants an excuse to read it. Martin has said he would like Reckless. Ooh. And Kev has said that he would like Extremity by DJW. So
Martin's going for that top spot of Reckless.
Got a 50% chance of a Batman title.
Oh,
I thought we vetoed Batman when we did Batman Man. I can't have any more. Batman out. So lucky I read this when I saw Batman in there.
Liam has jumped into the last minute one. Is it too late for that?
No, that's fine. So they both want self storage.
That's what I was wondering. Was that 2 entries?
Yeah, I'll do 2.
Because Connie and her pet panda wants Batman Who Laughs as well. So do we count on that?
No, sorry.
Sorry,
okay.
Connie, I tried.
All right, let's get the screen shared. There we go. All right. Okay, so let's give it right. I'm assuming this is everyone now. Okay, we'll give it a quick shuffle. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Good luck, everyone. Let's see who gets it.
Something good. Something good.
Oh.
There we go, Kev with Extremity. Well done, mate. You've won that there. I'm quite pleased with that. I'm really pleased with that, actually.
Daniel Warren Johnson assist. I mean, Sheehan, you will love it. You will love it. But yeah, that's
as long as he's writing it and not drawing it.
I think he's on both. I could be wrong.
Yeah, he's always on both. Always on both.
But yeah, that's what we have next week. I'm assuming just volume 1. But yeah, Extremely by Daniel Warren Johnson, not DJW.
Oh yeah,
DWJ.
DWJ. Yeah.
So of course you will be invited to come on the show next week if you can make it, which you may be anyway. But anyway, so you get the swag as well. And so you get two lots of swag sent to him.
Has he had swag? He's been on before, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well done, Kev.
But that's us for this week, folks. Thanks everyone for watching us live on YouTube. Thanks for guys listening on the podcast after. We've enjoyed it this week. It's a Superman Red Sun. All we have left to do is get your waves out.
Bye.
Bye, guys. Bye, everyone.
Love you.